Hello, this is Cory Endrulat of Nature is the Answer, and I would like to make a little announcement here in saying that, well, we are facing some levels of uncertainty in the future. I did make a podcast about this that was around 50 minutes. I think most people know who have followed my work for a while know that, yeah, we're in desperate times. We need change more now than ever, and basically NITA is the only blueprint there is, and perhaps the best one there is to get us out of this mess, if you really looked into it. And for individuals who haven't, that's okay, because I have an article that will be published soon, hopefully, on a guest website, and I'll make sure to announce that on this channel in case you want to read instead of watch the videos that are on my channel about NITA, or by going to nita.one/video. You can watch those, right, for some brief summaries. It's not much harder, I like to say to many individuals, than just wanting to agree around simple things such as love, family, and life. And people may say, oh, well, that's overly simplistic, and that's okay, because frankly, it is. Us human beings have overcomplexified many things, and so I intend not to make this too complex as a recording within itself, if you will, because I want to say that, well, we're facing levels of immorality in society, and we've known that, as according to the law of freedom in the natural law, which states that as morality increases, freedom increases. But looking at it at another point of view as well, you have all these sides fighting one another. I don't partake in any side. Okay, I don't. You know what side I take? I take the humanity side, the moral side, the right side. Yeah, the actual right, not the right versus left, but right versus wrong, right? And I'm trying to find the root cause to each situation. And I typically sometimes mention political events on this channel because it still affects people's health. Ultimately, and as we've seen growing across just a couple years, politics is affecting people's health, and there's many things in health that aren't even mentioned in politics, for politicians know little of health, and people in the health field rarely connect it to politics, despite the strong connection, despite the strong influence. And so my job here is to connect the dots, as I usually do, with different subjects, and I'm aware that perhaps I caused a little bit of stir controversy around the vegan video. However, again, it's just a greater perspective among the transition in the approach in particular. Okay, I never disagreed that eating vegan or more plant-based is moral, because it definitely is. It's objectively moral in most of all regards. Okay, but you have to keep in mind these other situations that do exist. There are situations where it's not an always, where it's not 100%, and you shouldn't want to do harm to your own body. And you want to look at the positive and the negative expression. The ultimate expression that's coming out of it, being that's right, is something based in something that does not result in harm. So what is resulting in harm, whether that be to you, your body, or the environment, or your family, or the people around? Okay, and you often see with a lot of different sides and quote-unquote movements, which I've exposed in previous videos, and this is bizarre, why people are acting violent and out of immoral behavior. And as a young person, I guess, to speak upon this, which I will embrace fully, because why not? There's nothing wrong with that. It's to say that I used my resources wisely when I was younger, and I'm still trying to find the truth. I'm not too set in my ways, or thinking that I know it all, or that making presumptions about certain things, perhaps that individuals would say my prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, even though I would talk to them in person, so forth, and settle it out with common sense. I'll receive criticism. It's not a big deal. It's not about me anyways. What I'm here to talk about is exactly the immorality that's in this world, and the projection, the reflection, the amount of blaming, pointing fingers all the time. They do it all the time. People, everyday people, all the time. And sometimes they don't realize it, and I'm not trying to do that here on this channel, certainly. I'm talking about the ideas, the negative ideas, the positive ideas. the less holistic ideas, the ones that aren't as connected, for example. So that's important to look at, and that's what I look at. I try to look at it at least, and I think most individuals should try, and by that means, do not set your belief system on one way of thinking or through a restricted boundary, as most people do. This is generally something I've been talking about on my channel very often. However, I did want to address, yes, we are facing uncertain times in the future. That includes an economic collapse of high certainty. That includes potentially depopulation in different regards, a lot of different mental problems, and people need to generally stay strong through this. I'm discouraged to stay on the internet for the very reason that the internet's just going to become more toxic as it goes, and the media feeds it up, and both the left and right feed it up for their agendas. This is not one that we just play around with and just, everybody just rants on social media. I don't want to contribute to that, and I think most people should want to stay at peace with themselves and get off of social media. That's what's going to heal the world. But ironically enough, to make a message and say that on social media is a challenge, right? It's a challenge to saying, well, technology is going to destroy us, so why are we on technology telling you that? And that can be used as an argument for somebody, even though, generally speaking, there's a level of obligation involved, and there's a level of obligation, which is why I've done what I've done. I've spread the natural law, for example, to around 50 people each week so far, in person, not online. And I intend to keep my interactions in person more often than online. However, I'm working on still different things, just for a few updates, and I don't intend to, like I said, make as much online content as I have before, but I'm sure I will produce some stuff here and there, as Nita is one and only special, and it is my moral obligation to share that, being that nobody else has such a blueprint for change. I'm posting that long podcast anyways, but, most people generally at the end of the day want the same things, and I say that time and time again, but it is growing in importance, and it will always be growing of importance when you see things happen in society. Now, something I do want to mention is consciousness, and I did mention that in the podcast as well, that you can go to. I'll have it linked in the description. Basically, what I'm talking about is that a lot of people are acting out of unconsciousness. They're acting out of not knowing what the result of their actions would be. They're acting out of emotional appeal, out of just feelings. Maybe they say, okay, it's a gut feeling, but they don't have the knowledge behind it, so they don't have the heart, mind, guts that I list, for example, where you have to care enough to know enough to act, as Mark Passio also puts it. So it's important that we have all those aspects to get there, and if you're interested more in my take on that and how I'm looking at this as a younger person and about the criticisms that people like me get, I do go into that in the podcast. But I appreciate you listening to this, and Nita is perhaps the most important thing we need nowadays. And I don't mean to plug my stuff, I really don't. I really don't want to just say, okay, well, Nita is technically the answer to everything, because nature is the answer. And I'm just basically saying, well, here, nature's the answer. It says it in its name. People ask, well, is there a better way you can portray it? Well, I told you I have an article about the subject, but also, it's in the name. It says nature's the answer. It doesn't have to be more hard than that. It's quite that simple. And, I don't want people to be forced to do things that they don't want to do themselves. That's against their own personal sovereignty. You own yourself, and that's a very important thing to uphold for generations in time. So how does Nature's the Answer work through generations? It's spreading that message to your children, to your family members, to other people, and getting that message known and about, and how we act upon it and bring our lives to natural law, to natural medicine, to all that is suppressed in time, to all that is kept away from us, to all that is simply here and present, that is here for us to unite to begin with. See, I even know people in political parties, and they're like, well, you still have to choose the left or the right, and oh, well, this person's better than that. It's like choosing a greater evil. Who's the lesser of greater evils? This is just bizarre. And then also saying, well, government is necessary, is then saying a necessary evil, because they agree to me with many things that I say when I talk about government being bad. And then many protesters, for example, violent protesters, are like, abolish the government. That's not going to make my case look good, because I say, well, the police and all these other forces are not all that moral in their very nature, but these people who are saying to abolish them, not necessarily knowing how to do it, look, they have to be the change. They don't know about natural law half the time. They don't know about nature. And they're acting in alignment with the violent nature, with the one that has negative expression, the one that causes chaos. Okay, so you have the freedom to express your views in even violent ways in America. You're literally contradicting yourselves. I'm talking to these protesters here. And if you truly want to get rid of these immoral, statist organizations, such as the police, for example, which, by the way, will always exist in some form, just like government, the point is that if you want to get rid of that, you have to take self-responsibility. Have a firearms, be ready, be prepared. So, look, here's the thing. Have your own checklist here. There's many websites you can go to for survival and prep. I'll have that also linked in the description, because I want people to be prepared, right? But let's say you knock down food. Now all you have to do is focus on protection, making sure you have the right firearms and everything like that, right? Because you don't want to have to deal with all that up front. You want to be prepared, just like the body, right? You want to prevent disease? The same thing. You want to prevent what's going to happen, or what is likely going to happen within the next 5 to 10 years, okay, from what we're looking at this rate. Things could change rapidly in different ways. Like I said, I have some levels of uncertainty, as I mentioned in the podcast, but we generally know what's going to happen. Generally speaking, we are among negative expressions. That's what we're going to attract. It's the natural law. What are we attracting right now? And so when all these people in their political parties, what I have to say to you is, well, what about a political party that's not even a political party, that is one that is based in nature about natural law? Create some noise around these universal principles. You want love and family at the end of the day? Well, how about you unify around that very thing? And that's what I'm getting out to a lot of individuals when I'm, talking about the natural law, getting it out to at least 50 people a week or so. Or at least just getting it out to as many people as I feel, and connecting with them, a heart-to-heart, the individual 6-step speculation appeal that I mentioned in a previous video. And it's called Individual Appeal. That's the name of the video. Why? Why do you do that? Because one-on-one, ourselves, if we change ourselves, we change the world, and it's all a natural process. It's all a natural process if we just talk to one another, if we get these ideas out there. So who's willing to do it? Because some people do have a platform. Some people have a fortunate place in the world that can actually create a lot of impact very quickly, but they're not necessarily using it, or they're scared to, or they fear the consequences when, again, I'm here for you. We're all here for you. And if you speak the truth, the truthful people that understand that truth, and there's other people that are always out there like you, they will stick up for you. And if it's truly truthful, then it will stick around. It will definitely stick around. Maybe people will attack you and so forth. Don't expect it to be perfect. I mean, I'm getting attacked too and so forth, but the truth must get out there. The truth is the truth. Remember that. And there isn't any exceptions to that truth. So, let's keep that in mind as we move forward and stay true to principle, stay true to what is actually objectively, inherently correct and moral according to the natural law. Does that mean eating more plants? Yes. Does that mean, being more sustainable? Yes. Does that mean doing the best we can, essentially? Yes. And that includes right now. So prepare while you can, while you still can. And I hope for everybody to stay safe through everything. And I'm glad to deliver the message to people who do have an open mind most of the time. Okay, I do say there's certain people that criticize. I have to speak on behalf of that just to show the mentalities of different individuals, including myself, by the way, for which, again, none of us are perfect, and we all have our place for a reason. So understand that you came across this, and you are definitely living a very special life, and embrace the times that you're living in. Don't take it as a bad thing. This is all just one big science experiment, and definitely a spiritual experiment at the least. But thank you for listening to this. This is Cory, Edmund, Endrulat. Nature is the answer. Nita.1. Thank you. Represent.